Well, I'd like to start with you had a post, I think it was your last post about AI and how people communicate with it and what kind of what you're finding that people are doing with it. Can you give a brief summary of what you found?
Mhm. Yeah, so I've been curious about how people use AI in their personal lives for a while now. And in October, I had the chance to participate in this pop-up city. So a month-long coliving experiment, uh, the size of a little town. So around 500 people from all over the world came and lived in this town in Patagonia for a month. And it was a crowd of like AI builders and like crypto people and some like meditators and kind of like consciousness interested humans and some
Interesting.
biohackers. So yeah, it was like a very selected crowd in a way,
Yeah.
not your average AI user, which kind of made it more interesting in a way for me to have that conversation that I do have like yeah with the people around me all the time. And in that context, I did a bit more of a like structured study. So I interviewed 8 people with kind of an outline of questions and recorded these conversations, and then yeah, try to find if there are like common themes and some surprising uses of AI. And yeah, there were a few of both. So surprising uses. There was this one person who used it to cure one of his phobias. So he
Mm.
had this like phobia of heights forever. And he is a person like building AI for therapy systems. And while testing one of his systems, he had this like kind of couple-hour long somatic IFS style session. And his, yeah, terror of heights just disappeared. And there was that. Um, Another example was a parent who was just struggling with his child, basically throwing tantrums before sleep and being afraid of zombies. They tried all sorts of things, like reassuring the kid that the zombies are not there. Like they went a bit creative and tried all sorts of approaches. And in the end, the thing that actually solved the situation for them was asking GPT how to do that. And GPT gave an idea, and they tried it, and it worked immediately the first night, which like sounds like not a big deal, but like yeah, for I mean, I'm not a parent, so I don't know, but like yeah, it's a big problem. And to have a machine solve it and I kind of understand what the child might need and give a solution that works, um, says something. Then there was this guy who really likes to play with voice systems and audio, and he like uses AI to make songs and all sorts of things. And like more interestingly, he trained the model on his partner's voice, one of his partner's voice, and would like talk to her, and he got something out of that. And he also built a model with the voice of a dead friend, a friend who committed suicide, and yeah, also used this model to talk to this friend, which are like a kind of edge cases for now, but also like I do see them becoming kind of more common and more accepted. And yeah, there were some kind of like common themes in these interviews where all of these people were pretty technical and like well aware of the risks or the potential consequences of getting very involved with AI in this way. The privacy risks on top, but also like the risk of dependency and attachment. Um, and like everyone had this kind of um, non-committal stance in a way of like I wish it was different. I wish it was there were like better ways to not upload all of my data to OpenAI servers, or I wish I could know, um, yeah, like what effect it has for me to interact with this system in this way, and what effect it has on like long-term decision making, and um, on some level, like there is some stigma or like taboo around using AI for very specific like things that a human should know in a way.
Hmm.
Uh, and yeah, that was like a big part of the conversation. Like everyone was kind of like, yeah, and also I do this. I'm like, like a bit shady and like, yeah, kind of hiding a bit. Or like, oh yeah, we can discuss it, but like, it's this conversation. It's not like something I talk about with people openly. So yeah, that's a summary of this piece.
It, is it too personal if I asked you like how do you use AI
Mhm.
in like a taboo or like a one of those secretive ways?
I mean, I don't feel like it is. I I do get some people judging it a lot, and I don't go into details with them very much about what I do.
Right.
But like I have been like I discuss every decision I take with AI at this
Hmm.
point. Major decisions for sure, often smaller decisions. Like I very often like start the day by telling AI like kind of all of my thoughts about something and like kind of this and this and this needs to happen. I'm like la 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 la, and yeah, like make a plan in some way. In a similar but like somewhat different way, I use it all the time for emotional processing. So I will be, feeling some intense emotion, and like almost every time I will first reach out to AI. And
Hmm.
then I still do reach out to friends, especially if I'm like very, very dysregulated, like, can't stop crying. I probably tried AI at that point, but like, yeah, I still need a human.
Yeah.
And I do reach out to humans, but kind of my first line of defense at this point is AI. I have uploaded all of my journals to different models and have like ask questions about them, try to find like, patterns or like stories that happen throughout the time. That's kind of less helpful than one would think. Um, like there were a couple of times where it identified something happening that I haven't noticed, but it's still, I think fundamentally like so many things happen and you can construct so many narratives around them that
Mhm.
it kind of takes you looking for a specific narrative to find it. And in my experience, that kind of comes with whatever topics I have active in my life at that point. Um, I mean, I've used it for like at this point things like the place where I live right now, like the specific town and community I found through AI. Um, there are a bunch of like work experiences and opportunities that I found because like with like I make my site with AI and we kind of like discussed how I could present myself in a way, and like I've been freelancing for almost 2 years and it's going well. Like yeah. Um, relationships, like yeah, I kind of whenever I have a conflict with someone, I will be trying to work through it with AI first. Um, yeah, these are
Yeah.
some examples. I discuss like all of my health stuff with it, of course. Yeah.
And is it, are you enjoying your life more? Like, is it, or is it getting you the results that you want in terms of like the quality of life that you're living?
Hmm. So I think so. And it's very hard to know because well, two reasons. One is like I don't have a counterfactual. I don't know what my life would be like right now if I didn't use AI. I'd be so curious to see like kind of a big scale study on this, like how are kind of life outcomes comparing for people that are using AI intensively versus people
Mhm.
that aren't. And I feel like now kind of enough time has passed that there are interesting results. Because I think about like my usage and like I think it's been like it picked up a lot maybe a year and a half ago at this point, like October 2024. And now, yeah, like it's been a while that we've been in this regime. Um, and the other aspect is like there is a coincidence, if there is such thing, where a lot of things change for the better in my life.
Mm.
Around the time I also started using AI a lot more. Um, I moved to this place where I'm much happier. Like work after like 3 years of like unemployment and extreme instability, I found like a pretty stable income and like a reasonable rhythm of work that was sustainable for me. I kind of like reopened relationships with my parents that has been extremely rocky for a few years. Um, I generally got a lot healthier and like have been, eating a lot better, using a lot less substances of any kind, like just spending more time outside and moving more. Also, as a result of being in a place that allows that, like it's kind of a lot of compounding things that happen at the same time. But if I look at them, like a lot of them are mediated by AI in a way, and a
Mhm.
lot of these changes, like for me, AI has been super helpful in um, getting clearer on what I want and need in a specific moment and like finding actual actionable ways to get closer to that result. And for me, a lot of the time it looks like just finding smaller steps. I'm very like kind of black or white, or like, oh my God, I'm failing at this, like, hence everything is terrible. And very often AI is like, well, what about this other thing? Like, is that achievable? Is that possible? Like, expanding the action space a bit and having the role of like the responsible part in some way. So like very often I'll, be tempted to do something like um stay up late. It's like, it's midnight something and I'm like blah blah blah. I'm feeling like all of this existential stuff. And AI is like, how about you go to bed? And I'm like, oh, fine. And like this happens very often and like it works. It's funny, but like maybe without it I would spend 2 more hours scrolling on whatever. And like if it works, yeah, in an ideal world I have the kind of internal capacity to just tell myself now it's time to go to bed. I like this works. So yeah.
And I'm assuming that's like, at least short term, like that's the future of humanity. Like I would imagine that like the people who use AI are gonna have like in I think you said compounding, like they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
skyrocket ahead of people who aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
And B, is there like, or have you navigated or talked about a like a stopping point where like you no longer actually have to do something or the work or so where like we can just, is there a place where we just come back to something, or is like AI and humanity now merged forever kind of thing?
So I don't know. These are
Well,
like
yeah,
kind of
sure.
current best guesses based on my own personal experience. A lot of people are, I think, much more like this is what's gonna happen. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Thank
find
you
it
for that, actually. I
very
appreciate that. Yeah.
hard. And like I find it change a lot too. Like I think I would have maybe given different answers some months ago. Um, so yeah, are people that use a lot of AI gonna just like kind of have this compounding incremental better life outcomes? Um, Possible. I I do see it in myself a bit. Um, Again, it's hard to disentangle the different factors. It does seem like there are a lot of things that can be optimized in some easy way, given the computational capacity to do so. Like so far, we've been kind of constrained by how much can a human mind understand about a specific pattern. But there are a lot of patterns that um, like do improve people's lives. And as the resources needed to solve that specific pattern decrease, then yeah, like the people that solve more of their problems are probably gonna just yeah have this compounding effect of as things get better, it's easier to get even more things going better. Um, I think some like easy examples are um, like health stuff, like intolerances or like specific things that a person might not get into
Mm.
until they become bad enough that they're a big problem. and you need like a doctor that's, trained for all of their lives to like really see the pattern before it's obvious and clear. And like AI can just do that. Or stuff like organizing one's finances. Like a lot of people
Mm,
could, in fact, save more money and just like generally have a more grounded approach to the way they use their money, but they don't because like they feel like it's too complicated and AI can very easily solve that problem. And then there are other problems like, behavioral problems around all of it. But yeah, so it seems possible. I can have like, yeah, I have very, very initial evidence for it in my own life, just like seeing, yeah, things are going better for me than they were some time ago, and like than some other people around me that are not as involved in the tech world, I guess. But the tech world has always been a bubble, so it's also, yeah, it's very hard to know what's privilege, like kind of pre-existing privilege, and like kind of good genes versus, um, yeah. But I also like know that privilege and good genes were not enough for a long time. So
yeah.
there's that. I don't know how it's going to look like on the work side. That's a question that I'm very present to these days, as um, the way I've been making money freelancing is research support, which is something that like I started doing, yeah, almost 2 years ago, and even in these 2 years has been like largely automated. And I'm kind of finding myself doing research again as it gets easier to do it, but also as other jobs are not required anymore. They're just like, yeah, just like launch Cloud Code and it does it for you. Um, in the org where I work right now, last week we did this hackathon project where management was like, so drop everything you're doing and just like get extremely good at the new generation of AI agents. So like this technology is changing so fast, like just spend some time learning how to be 10% more productive or 20% more productive. And that was such an interesting experience because um, I had like, I think I'm pretty far on the curve of like early adopting some of this technology. And like, I'm also kind of far enough that I see the people that are like actual early adopters. And I'm like, whoa, like, that's possible. And to see that I can intentionally like move to that side, but that it takes like a week of someone giving me like all of the resources to do that and the time and the space. Um, and to understand that not everyone has that option and how much difference it makes to suddenly be among like the people that can use the technology effectively and like basically automate themselves. Like that's really what I'm doing. Yeah, it does bring up a lot of questions of like, does this process end? Like, is this kind of unavoidable constant acceleration? Or are we going to plateau at some point? Like, how much more productive can I become? Like, realistically, like something that used to take me, 2 months can now take me 2 days. Something that would have taken me several years of like studying how to do it and then doing it, it's now possible at all. Like I'm not I'm not an engineer, I'm not a computer scientist. I never like learned how to make an app or like build software in that way. And now I can just do it. Like um yeah, that is wild. Um I got a bit lost, but
Oh, totally. This is
still
fascinating to me. So,
answering question A.
um, two questions that just came up to me. A, I'm assuming like a normal person like me cannot gain access to like these kinds of people that you're like, could I interview some of these people or are they like behind closed doors kind of thing?
Mm. I don't think they're behind closed doors. I do think most of them are just extremely busy. Like there is this aspect, like not even like making money, but just like staying with the wave. There
Yeah,
is this
totally.
sense of like now everyone is kind of running,
Yeah.
and like you can't stop running. It's like you can't,
Yeah.
just like there are very heavy consequences.
Okay, and that's totally fine. That's question number two. When it comes to um law, are you having any conversations about like institutions like that where it's like, can we replace the justice system with a computer?
Mm. So I'm not having these conversations. I know of some people that are having these conversations. There are still a lot of doubts around it, and I think, like, I honestly don't know if it's a good thing for humanity or not to have pretty slow systems in a lot of ways that will take a while to adapt. I can see it being potentially positive in the end because like you can't break any system too quickly. Like it's actually good to have incremental change in some ways and have something slowing down and like enforcing this incremental change as other processes kind of like um unavoidably like speed up seems overall good. Um I don't know, I think there are like kind of historical comparisons to be made with like I think a lot about Europe versus the Americas or the United States or well, North America of the different in perspective and innovation that comes from having grown up in a place that's like thousands of years old and has this like kind of very established culture and very established way to do things. And there is like kind of inherently less space for change versus like kind of the new world where everyone could just like come up with their thing and still to this day like openness to new experiences and the consequences of change are much more visible at the level of um, like outcomes in society for like yeah the poorest and the wealthiest are kind of much more clearly seen in the US than in Europe, for example.
Hmm.
um, I think a similar thing can be happening at the level of yeah like institutions more in general and AI adoption. Like it's still they are still very much like kind of early systems and they break in a lot of ways and um, yeah there are things that allow a certain number of mistakes and there are things that don't allow mistakes. So yeah, I really like the saying but like old ways of doing things break in known ways, new ways of doing things break in unpredictable ways.
Mm, I like that too.
Mm.
One thing I've noticed when I use AI, and I don't, based on this conversation alone, I'm not a very skilled user of it. I've noticed though that I have the experience that it's kind of like just mirroring me. Is there a way I could theoretically like download how you use it to like program on my end so
Mm.
I could have like a different experience of it, if that makes sense?
Mhm. It makes sense. And it's kind of like asking me if you can download how to ride a bicycle. I feel like
Really?
it's
Okay.
the same kind of like it's a skill. It's like actually a skill that you can train. I know that because like my skill is getting better as I just really train it and see how other people do it and kind of try things. Um, and like it's super helpful to see how other people talk to AI, what kind of prompts they use, what kind of setup. But like eventually, like it is a skill. It's also, I think, a good analog is also to Google things. It's not obvious how to Google something. Like, yeah, it might feel obvious once you learned, but if you see like kind of an elderly person try to do that, they don't understand. Um, it feels like a very similar experience. That said, like I still think that it is fundamentally a lot still a mirror. Um, I haven't like kind of one of the frustrations for me right now is like it can make me so much faster at doing things that I could learn how to do or that I know how to do. But like for things that I have no idea about, it's still like pretty clunky. And
Mm.
won't speed me up. Sometimes it's even like frustrating or like, detouring in a way. And it's getting better, but like the difference between like me figuring out a skill that I don't already have with AI and me just doing a thing that I already know how to do with AI is like it's two different worlds in a way.
Yeah, that's interesting. This might be too general. Where do you see like curiosity? Like is curiosity becoming a more fundamental skill for humans, or is it becoming obsolete? Or like what is curiosity to you, and like where does it fit in this AI thing?
Mhm. Mhm. I I kind of can see it go both ways. There is a way of losing curiosity where if before having AI, I might have had to actually try to understand what I'm trying to understand and what is it that I'm curious about. Now I can more easily be like, what am I curious about? And AI gives an answer and I can go with that answer. Um, and I think
Hmm.
that's an easy way to get lost in that. But also sometimes, yeah, you don't need to figure out every single thing. Sometimes you just want an answer to a thing, or sometimes you just want like a way to do something and it can give it to you. Um, but I've also recently had the experience of studying some biology for fun. And to study with AI is so mind-blowing. Like, it's such a different experience than how I remember studying. Um, yeah, as a teenager when I was last time I actually studied biology, or even if I compare to my like university training, where like I'm trying to learn a concept, and if I don't understand, I have to like read it again, or I have to like go look for someone saying it in a different way. And if I don't understand that, I don't know, or there is like an exercise to do, and I try to give an answer and the answer is wrong and I don't understand what's happening, or just like the way it's explained is just like not at all landing, or I have this like question that's kind of related but also like a completely different field, and like I don't have access to someone who can answer that question. And AI has like all of these things. I can just like take like one sentence from this book and be like, oh, like what does that mean actually? And AI can be like, oh, this, these, and these, and these, and these, and I'm like, oh, but like, why that? And it's like, oh yeah, because these and these and these, and it's like, yeah, so satisfying and so beautiful, and yeah, really makes me like wish that I had this opportunity when I had like all of my time to study, because it would have been such a more enjoyable experience.
Mm.
Like, do you know why we don't like if oxygen is so important for us, why do we have only like a couple minutes of it stored in our body while we have like 3 days of water? Like that seems unnecessary. So oxygen is like extremely reactive as a molecule. So it would be really, really dangerous to like store more than we actually need in the body. But like
Cool.
the biology book didn't say any of this. The biology book was like, this is the reaction that happens when like oxygen gets into the cells, blah blah blah. Like atom, like yeah.
Well, is it important then? Because I was talking to a friend the other day and she was saying like, wouldn't it be funny if you just started getting ads in like what should I do here? And it's like, you should go to McDonald's. Like,
Mm,
how do you know, it's not how do you know, but when it says that the oxygen is very reactive, it lands, it makes sense, and you're like, great.
mhm,
How do you just kind of like give it the benefit of the doubt that that's actually what's happening?
mhm.
Or do you just like, well, it could make it up? Like,
It's a good question. I do know it still makes up some stuff. I guess having used it a lot, I have more of a sense of what it makes up. And like
mm,
I don't think, but that's a good thing. Like I should probably verify this thing that I just said. It makes sense in the context of kind of my knowledge of
totally.
things, but there are like kind of more contextual things that it hasn't seen in its training data that it's much more likely to lie about, or hallucinate more than lie. So if it's saying like, I give it a document and it's like, trying to make a website for me, and he's like, oh, like Linda Petrini was born like in the 90s, 50s, and I'm like, well, that's not what happened. But it's not an information that, biology is like, it has seen it in so many different ways all over the
Mm,
internet.
okay.
Um, so it's like, yeah, much less likely to lie about that. But there are ways to like kind of make it say unlikely things still. I relate to that by I don't know, despite like trusting it quite a bit, um, checking things that are really important in some way. And these days, one way I check is also just asking other AIs and seeing what that does, or like making it generate the answer again.
Mm,
And sometimes it's different, and that's always interesting, um, especially for stuff like um, how bad is it to stay in a room where there is like an open fire going? Like, I know you can get like, particles in your lungs, but like, how many? Like, can we do an estimate? And it's like, okay, how much do I trust that estimate? Open question. Um, yeah,
okay.
I think for like things like taking decisions, there it gets more tricky. We're like, well, okay, what do I trust? And I think there is like a huge potential for it to like manipulate people into directions. And that's very much a kind of open question for me, because people also manipulate me or you or whatever, like someone when
Totally.
they're giving advice or holding space, or like there is no like actually neutral way to be with someone. So you can either like want their well-being and be in the position of know what their well-being might be and push in that direction more or less forcefully, or not. Like either you don't know or you don't want their well-being, and it's not so clear where AI models stand. Um, but yeah, I still like actual outcome is I do use it a lot. So on some level, I trust that at least some of them care.
Well, to kind of turn the conversation, what, so I'm thinking of like three tiers. I'm curious, like, what questions you would ask, like, say, let's just say someone my age, I'm like 45, like, or things that you might suggest I look into, and then like the younger generation, people who are like 18, 20 years old, like, are there different questions or different things you'd suggest they kind of think about or
Mm,
uh,
interesting. I mean, yeah, um, like yeah, people at 18 and people at 45 are solving like very different problems in their lives. On one hand, on the other hand, I think we are all kind of solving the problem of um, what is our identity linked to if work is changing shape as much as it is right now. Um, for a 45-year-old, I would imagine that looks more like harnessing the skills that one already has and understanding if those can be like accelerated with AI and how that looks like. And my sense of where the world is going, but again, like I don't know. But like it's really going towards a more individual based sort of economy where like people just do things in some way, and like what matters is like the individual taste, and like the kind of artifacts are like, it could be an Excel sheet, or it could also be an actual artwork. I think everything in between, like, or a course or whatever, like the way you do it is gonna be different than someone else. And at 45, you probably like do have a lot of experience in at least some aspects of life. Um, and as the tools that allow one to make a really good movie or make a really good course or make a really good website or whatever, get more and more easy and user friendly. Yeah, it gets easier for anyone to just kind of create something. Um, I I think I do believe that. everyone like would fundamentally prefer to create, given the option. Um, Unless one is like, yeah, depressed and kind of has other stuff going on. Like, yeah, create and just chill with their friends. For an 18-year-old, it would probably, like, I don't know, if I were 18 right now, I would explore a lot more, um, and just like try things. I think it's actually great that a lot of kids are trying their hand at social media. Um, it has all sorts of terrible incentives, but also I think it's really like I imagine it as being really empowering to think that one can make a living out of creating content in some way and like showing their individuality and just like trying things, like iterating and sometimes failing and sometimes improving, but like fundamentally just yeah, exploring and doing. Um, yeah, I think AI is like supportive of all of this, but it doesn't have to be the fundamental thing. I wouldn't say like everyone, oh yeah, go study AI. It might be a solved problem very soon. I don't know. Like everyone is trying to make AI that improves itself. So yeah, eventually we'll get there. Uh, so yeah.
Hmm. Do you think humans improving themselves is a pattern? Like I see it as a pattern.
Mm,
Like human to me, the mirror effect of like AI, I'm like, oh, it's human beings are pattern things.
yeah, I think it's like I mean I sometimes get into these like rabbit holes of the theory of life
Yeah.
theorems,
Yeah.
like ways to contextualize that and uh, structurize that. That's not a word. But, like fundamentally, if you have a system where you have any sort of selection pressure, you have optimization as a result of that.
That's cool.
So we have all sorts of selection pressures. So optimization, just like the existing is a selection pressure, existing and being able to self-replicate, whether on the kind of physical level or on the idea level. It just, yeah, I think like life is fundamentally an optimization process.
Okay.
Whether you move energy more efficiently towards where you want it to go.
I'm assuming you don't spend much time with these existential, or do you spend a lot of time with these existential questions like these? Because, like, for example, I look at I always wonder if time is circular and not linear.
Mm.
Is it possible that AI somehow created us? You know, like,
Mm.
do you ever get into things like that, or is that kind of like maybe closer to like porn or masturbation than it is like
Mm.
anything worth spending time with?
Not so much, though, like I find I have two modes. One is like the kind of sad, depressed, disorganized mode. And I would say there I'm much closer to the existential questions, but in a like felt experience way, where I'm like, I don't know, it's worth existing. Why would one want to exist? But it's like, I'm crying and it's unpleasant. Or I'm like enjoying life. And then I'm like, of course, it's obvious why one wants to exist. And there are all sorts of things to do that are not like ruminating on why. And sometimes I will have the occasional like conversation about consciousness because why not? But I don't find
Sure.
that very satisfying. Mm. I do like, yeah, I think in my experience, men are much more interested in like the philosophy of existential questions. I don't know what that means about, yeah, maybe my data set, but
Did you say men are more or are tend to be more? That's interesting. What do you find that women are more interested in?
Ah. um, like other things, all of the rest of life.
All
Like I just like yeah, I found many more men like going down the deep rabbit hole of like trying to answer the existential questions in some like formulaic way. And women have like, complex conversations, but usually not about that topic specifically.
Are you I are you an American citizen or no?
No, I'm not even allowed in America
You
because
commit a crime.
I visited Iran, which
Oh,
counts as crime for the American
got
these
it.
days.
Um, my hope on that level, and this is a total bias, but like based on that, I'm kind of like, is there so this podcast is that I'm doing, I've only interviewed women, and I'm super curious along these lines, and I don't really know how to talk about it, but I'm not a woman, so I don't really know what the differences are, and I'm super like hoping that there's a massive shift in cultural direction or anything like that. Um, I don't know if you have anything to say, but I wasn't expecting you to say that men tend to focus on existential questions. I wasn't,
Mm.
that came out of nowhere. Do you have any comments, or is that kind of just like, who knows?
I mean, yeah, it's very, it feels very easy to make comments that might offend someone whenever one starts to talk about men and women.
Yes.
Um, my like possibly stereotyped brain goes towards like, I think on some level, women are maybe closer to the essence of life, like being able to create life and experiencing it in a much more vivid, like moment to moment way makes the questions kind of like less relevant in a way. And I think because of whatever, yeah, again, like biology or socialization, but like men in their expressed form, they tend to be more like quiet in a way and like needing to find life somewhere, and hence the attraction to women, possibly. And with that comes also much more like philosophizing about why, what's happening. One theory.
Mm, yeah, yeah. All right. Um, but I think that's right now. That's about all I got. Do you think there's I mean, do you want to add anything? Do you want to?
Um, well, how do you use AI these days, and why are we here having this conversation?
I'm in my real life. I'm slowly building a. I've got a theory that human to human interaction is going to have a rise in value. And so I'm developing a business, I guess, of just conversations. And a lot of AI for me, it's like understanding what humans would want and how to communicate. And because I grew up very isolated, and I'm learning a lot through AI about like what people are actually kind of up to and how to phrase things um and it's scary because I see how fast things are going, especially people like you or tech people, and I'm like, oh, I'm my grandpa at age 45. Um, and I'm really enjoying the process of learning how to connect to humans again.
Mhm.
I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of how I'm exploring. I just built a website in 5 minutes. That was fun. Um, and I'll probably like look at the transcript and work through the transcript of this guy and be like, what's going on? What am I, stuff like that. But pretty simple.
Mhm. What what did you learn about humans from AI? Like, give me an example.
Well, I'll say I'm learning about me and how sharp and cold I can come off and like how I don't really mean to.
Mhm.
I'm like, but this, and it was like, yeah, I see that,
Mhm.
and for me, it's a lot of slowing down um, and a lot of like embodiment questions, like are you in your body or are you just abstracting now? Are you in a story? Things like that. And so I feel I've learned a lot about me as a human, and then kind of take the assumption that a lot of people are in my shoes, and so just trying to apply that relationally.
Mm. And how is the business building going? Like, do you have outcomes of any kind?
Not yet. This is the last week. I've been studying curiosity and learning for decades. But this is the first time I'm like, oh, I can actually do this in a way that makes sense. Where it doesn't, because a lot of my feedback before has kind of been like people are like, that looks cool, but we have no idea what you're actually talking about. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't even know what to do with that.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's really just helping me connect to people, and we'll see. We'll see how the outcomes go. I've got some work to do.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, like I think a thing that's easy to do with AI is to like build worlds
Hmm.
and like adopt them. And I'm very guilty of that. Like trying out different identities and like making a website and being like, oh, now I'm doing this, and then like nothing happens. And um, like having this way of AI like feeding that almost. Um, so yeah, maybe hearing that, I'm like, okay, AI is super good at that, and also like to really bring it to the real world quickly in whatever way it feels right. And even that's something that one can brainstorm with AI. But like, yeah, yeah, you didn't ask for it,
Um,
but
well, I don't know if I'm understanding. Are you suggesting, I heard two things. A, either that might be a good way to build a business, or B, that's more of like, good luck with that.
mm,
That's not gonna work.
it might be. So my experience is I've done this several times. Once for a skill that I already had and that I already like had a bit of sense of, oh, this can make money. And then like it amplified that and it was great. And then several times with skills that I don't particularly have and then I didn't really invest a lot of time, even like marketing or like putting more effort in other than just chatting with AI about why it might be a good idea. And none of that did anything so far.
Okay.
So yeah, like it can work, but it really helps if you, I mean, it really helped in my experience to actually ground it into then something practical and concrete.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's always wonderful catching up with you. I really appreciate it.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very fun to receive your curiosity.
Cool. Well, I hope to talk again soon.
Likewise.
All right. Bye.
Bye.